然后他就说哦，我忘了带钱，你可不可以借我钱？然后他说他要去供灯，我说哦好啊，多少钱？然后他就说1000块。我就说那供灯为什么要1000块？然后我说我没那么多钱，他就说那500，我就说没有，我就给他100。可是我觉得他骗我的。
就是。
对啊，怎么可能有人供灯线？
在菩提迦耶那边有这样的骗子很多。
哦，菩提迦耶我遇到超多骗子的。就是，我们平常我觉得，因为我们外国人，就是我去兜街店的时候，我每次进去就会，还有那个就是穿着是出家人，就是跟你们穿一样的衣服，可他看起来不是西藏人，比较像那个喜马拉雅。
喜马拉雅或者不藏。
对，就是不像西藏人。然后就会一直跟着我，然后就会跟我说啊，这里什么什么什么，这里什么什么，就一直这样子。然后我就跟他说不用，然后他就问你哪里来啊，干嘛啊？
我们也分不清楚哪是不藏人，哪是喜马拉雅的。是吧？啊，从我做啊。
过去。
开始。那가서 그 대화지 동래. 나 좀 로갈라마. 그 대화 가르라잖아. 버두 때라. 버두 동카티 속에네. 버두 노 펜스 지금 통그래베스.
The Geshe was telling me that Jennifer here in class asked the question if the Bardo people could see each other in the Bardo.
아니 가등아 레 따다지 하고 마서. 아니 양전에 로바츠 계자티 된듯이. 아니 티제데 버두 때라네 단나가서 조사와요. 치지요래. 조사와. 또베이니 근제비. 조 때라. 링텐 함 따빈 통전. 다 던다 가르라잖아. 아니 아서 미 버도에나 버도랑게나 미 버도 지기지 파선 통그래스. 아니 던도에나 던도 버도 고조 파서 지기지 통그래스. 아니 라이 미 따바잖아. 상원시어서 라이 미 요사 가시게 하디서가 내요 버도 통그래스.
So I wasn't immediately able to give that answer, but then an answer to that question. But then I went and talked to some friends, and we looked up in a source. The idea and the answer was that if you're a person, so you can see people of similar class. So if you're a person, you can see other people. If you're an animal, you could see other people. And the hlate to the hla pincer the bardo
hlate hlatileo ngoshi yosado ngoshi mesa yo ngoshi riya yosajo laimi ngoshi 가시게 네 버든도 ngo시 초막 통고문도 ngo시라요 니바 친조 모본도 ngo시 니바 치아도 건통 아니 라이 미 라리식 다 초막 통고문도 라기노네 리식 미드가 아니 버두도 딜리키와 치마 어딘디반 통그체 다른 번 통그
이 라테토 디미 통기요레 디 팀조 통기요레
라테조가 요미 라거저 던도 초마 버두 초마 통그레 아니 담파나 미 버두는 린템바 거르 미는 미 버두 세소마
but the gods the gods the La are able to see sort of the whole bardo but there's also different levels of these sort of clairvoyances, and so some of the gods can see more than others. Hello, welcome. Come on in. There's tea and coffee in the back, hot water in the cooler. You're welcome to sit on the floor or on a chair. There's Jennifer. Would you give him a cushion? Would you hand him a cushion?
It's okay. I don't need one. Please.
This is more comfortable.
Okay, thank you very much.
아니 텐디치게 아니 요 버두텔라 기통아서 버두텔라네 러시안 라마다 잔도네 버두 만다와 두 버두 만다 지 숨 네 버두텔라 나무도 만다 텐딘도
And so when we talk about the bardo, there's different names for the different bardos and different sort of ways that the bardo is broken down into 6 or 4 or 3. There's different sort of divisions of bardos.
ane kara chiwi pardu sanene milaji pardu milam
ki bardo
milaji pardu ane chiwi
bardo
oh tatindi tatonga manda tindi.
So there's different types of bardos or different ways that people have talked about the bardo. So you have like the bardo of birth, the bardo of death, the bardo of dreams, and so there's other ways that the bardo can be sort of broken into sections.
Pardu kechishat ngaso chika pardu zatana chika ma pardu chika pardu zaneta shirojene chika tindi pardu chi joan ti kechimbo isho.
So the most important bardo really is this bardo at the moment of death, like right as we're dying, that time right leading up to our death.
Ane ti yapu joan ti nguyapu tena ane kiachima yapu la tzola.
Yeah, so this is considered really important because if we have a good mind, if we practice properly, during this time, then we will take a good rebirth.
Ane milaji parduza de kararezana pena ngaso mila yimba ngushene mila yimba ngushene ene tenala yo chunyale chatindi jonchindo o tiris ni bad.
And so when we talk about the bardo of dreams, right now the bardo of dreams, there's an opportunity if you're able to know you're dreaming while you're dreaming, then you can actually do your practices in these dreams, and that's a very useful thing.
Ane chato ngaso mila yimba ngushebati chato ngaso tise salu tont tende yo yapon da tsegare
mi yapokan
mila mi kosa mila yimba ngushezana ngaso ni tingun zetuna chato te yapon da yapo.
Yeah, so if you're able to recognize dreams while you're in a dream, this is considered a good thing.
Kana mila yimba ngu tende shiso mila tende shichimbola sana ane ngaso mesindene melanda boto tende le nyala cha no ata mila tawo moto nyimbo mebanda tende toale pendo shimbo.
Yeah, so like if you're able to be awake in your dreams, right, one of the benefits of this is then you're able to see how the waking world is sort of dreamlike, and then see how the waking world also doesn't have some sort of essence, and then that is of course very beneficial for your understanding of Buddhism and practice.
Ne penata ngason rajena samsala mila yimba ngushya tende samsala tis legres yana tinganda uchilen ti chunyale chene yabu chene leg mare tina chimilo tong da uchiga ane mila yimba ngushya tende legra nyala to.
So I, for example, like sometimes I am able to know in a dream that it's dreaming, but I'm not able to really do a lot of practice, right, when I do that. But I do sometimes recognize dreams when they dream.
Mila yimba ngushya kandijira pena nga Niko nene mila tonene sansala ne jenonda che ane sansala payendroa sansala pichata tindi mombo milanda manda ton ti kasane sansala chorandro tindi che gawa che tindi che te
kari chora ke samsam kari chora gawa
sansala ngaso chora taso pagi sebatse samombo dora chorandro chorandro tindi mila ton Milano nga tanda chorando yo mares ani khadera milara se tinde ha sansal phayendu phamate so tu tate mara nga milarendo milato ndo asas tinde no da shagiyores.
Yeah, so like how does this work for example, right, so you go to sleep, right, and of course in your dreams many different kinds of activities happen, like going to class or going to the debate courtyard or eating or studying or whatever, right, your normal life, right? But say if you fall asleep and you're in a dream and you go to the debate courtyard, of course the monks, the debate courtyard was a huge part of their life for 25 years, right? They would spend hours a day at the debate courtyard. So I would go to the debate courtyard, but I would then realize, I'm not at the debate courtyard, I'm asleep, I'm dreaming, right? So then I would know I was dreaming. Or like say I would go and visit my mother and my father in my homeland, and then I would suddenly realize, that's impossible, I can't be in Tibet, right? So I would realize I was dreaming. Yeah, so it's possible we all have had experiences like this.
Have you?
Yeah, I have. Since I was a child, I've had lucid dreams.
But I think most people cannot recognize.
It's quite easy actually to practice. Not low chung chung ne ten di mamba chung sung.
I only have once
Yeah.
that experience. I only had once, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah, you can do specific practices to trigger it.
Now I don't dream.
Yeah, you don't remember your dreams. You dream, you don't remember.
No, I don't remember. I don't dream.
No, everyone dreams. You'd be dead if you didn't dream.
I discussed that with my doctor. Yeah. My doctor said, because I
공기 숭바티 공기 텐상 공기 기 밀라 당기 메 숭숭. 이네 공화디 미 자창 밀람 당기래. 밀람 튕기요 말에. 이네 공기 메 숭숭.
Because I exempt that. Like for the past 1 year, I only had 2 dreams. And then I exempt them for a long time because I used to dream quite often. And then not specifically, I will remember, when I woke up. But then at a certain of time, you will remember you did dream. But for the past year, no, I didn't dream. I discussed that with my Chinese doctor, Tibetan doctor, and they said that it's actually good.
From a Western science perspective, you always go through dream REM sleep. You go through these cycles, and everyone's always doing it if you sleep. The only way you would not be having dream sleep, is if you were very sick. From a Western science perspective.
That's
So you're not, from a Western science perspective, you're just not remembering them. But I don't know. I don't know your experience, so I'm not going to argue with your experience. But if they do sleep studies, everyone goes through the REM cycle, right? You have to, otherwise you'd go crazy and die.
네. 라탑. pana milata 니데 가른트스 셰데요레나 아소 니데 닌투부 니시침부 거데 밀라도 또 뇨뇨요 말레스 닌투부 마카다 네 조바 다보튼데 냐라도 몸부터 레제네네 이정트 손에 같은데 돈요스
툭포티 밀람당기요 말에
닌투부 거데라 어때디 냐라도 말에 냐라도 가르레젠 니탑자 다보톤네 티 아니 조반다 몬치샤 텐데 통레젠 니 비자드 손은 돈요 비자 가르네 하고 오면도 나타테서 타타이 간리 하고 말아.
The texts often say that when people are in this very deep sleep, they're not dreaming. And then in the morning, when you go through lighter sleep, you have more dreams.
체르바츠 가르라고야나.
체르베데서 미 차창디 그르디 방그름 체니디 니쿠야디 그르디 데츠 숨쉬어레. The tupo dropped up the rim stage sergiere milam mixegi ki tutsuyore yangno the ngatso the nikutu pangrum cheni the kareti tunsen detsen detso the sum jogiere chikshina the chutsu jiktang chega ngatso the detsen sum shi detso pangrum jogiere ale ine the kengi the kareti ni tupo yena ngatso the rim stage this shukchimpo yongyo mares the shogela the rim stage shukchewa yores injela yores ale in tinrikpetetso the ngatso the milam the rim sleep mena ngatso nyunbo chakires negires it segire segire
대치 당가서 버두컬라 몸보 셰차 다tin 리아시라 아네다 당아파티 키스든 년사 조처스 아니다 버던도
86 okay 86 kilon what's going on kirangi ngapa take KCT
년사 조처는 yes
so let's see that is how conception takes place. Okay, so we are in the English text, we're on page 97. 5, how conception takes place. We're studying this text, which is a summary of the Lamrim Chinmo, which is the summary of the entire stages of the Buddhist path. And so we're in the section talking about the bardo and rebirth.
ane tanga so ta person ene ta kia la gura kesi te tene ngorki yenas rondo ronte besen chanton te ta la tawa tsewa sanji ane nga so pardo rondo tene ta kesi de nyenso joti kandira jena suzo to ring temba mena mig parsa o kia la sa to ne tendo ena tendo ring temba to ane saja telan rondo tendi luisha gresa
jotumba de
telan tendi ring tambatu zonto ani sacha telan rundon dago tende kozola rundo chon dugin doba
okay. Yeah, so then when we talk about how we're born, right? So we're in the bardo, and then what is the process for sort of taking rebirth, right? We have this strong desire, Geshe said earlier, with this very strong desire to be reborn, like a deep hunger, right? So what happens, like if you're going to be reborn as a person, you see people, right? You see an area where there's lots of people, or you're in the people bardo, right? And so then you have this desire, you see this place that you want to go to, and you have this really deep desire to go there, versus like an animal, you'd be sort of in the animal bardo, and you'd see a place that would attract an animal.
Aneta penanga so minji kialena pamani nyenso jeze tuba nyant dindi jabanto ane tindena pokina ane mo mala chapa mo pomachena pa polo chapa tindi che ane ti par ti kiala sa pang tuba chosa tilandro ane ndrote ane kotina lego tene tanda tilana pamani ka zubuto zomonto ane semani te ponse to monse teaching tone ane telatene ko jemban rachilo control rachiza pardoate
Control so
chuan chene chuan control rachira teaching taro telekiwa lendu gores control rachin ta chema rachim thora ko sama cha chuan rachi lu samadhi achane
kai chene chowa langire
te karazana ko tomba karan thora pomo pamani ka to pomoni kanto ane ta konto atino lendote ta ponse to monsen sema mato chigomato ane saul machacho ta kensan rajin to lu maganda tindi chand chilesa tene tarotino produktia ta zona mi kia tindi ane tendo yana to so
So for example, if you're going to be born as a person here, right? So what happens is you see the mother and father will become your mother and father essentially having sex, right? Conjoined in sex, and you're attracted if in the traditional presentation, right? If you're a man, then you'd be attracted to the mother. If you're a woman, you'd be attracted to the father. But you're attracted to one of them, and you approach them. And then when you get there, all you can see apparently are the genitals. I'm not sure that was. You see the male or female genitals, and this somehow makes you angry and upset, and then that impels you to take rebirth. If you're born, you'd be attracted. If you're born in the male, you'd be attracted. If you wish to lie with her, right? So you are attracted to them through sort of sexual attraction to one or the other, and then at that point you only see the sex organs, and that makes you very angry. And that causes you to leave the intermediate state and be born.
Ne tendechi tene troshele kiwa ne tindo bas tanga troshe kiwa chura kiwa tele je ngaki je ki troshe kiwa jenon troshele kiwa na timal shikchimbo chane timal shikchimbo chane ne taro ti troshe kiwa le.
Oh, and so this also would be the same for animals, right? Except that animals would of course see animals having sex, right? Not people. And then, of course, we have the idea of being born from heat and moisture, right? And so if you're born from this idea of something born from heat, they're going to be attracted to a smell, like a really beautiful or strong smell, and that will attract them to their place of their birth.
Ane zikena anendo pa susu desanda wati kombanda wati tendichi la doba shichimbo kena taro zitikiwa.
And for a miraculous birth, you are attracted to a place, right? So you have some place or some house or something that is very seems very attractive to you, and you're drawn to that.
Ane gonchina taro ngachi to ndawazena ngachi to chibares gonchi.
Karigi
ngachi.
I'm born from a womb. Okay. So then being born from an egg is the same as being born from a womb, and we talked about an animal or a person.
Ane zeti kiwa zena ne lhatiso ane zeki. Ane karba tombo ko mitsoma tanga karba toma chadeyora. kelba tombu
Gabatambo.
kelba tombu ni bazara koma mi chati kelba tombu
Samadhi.
zekires
So when we talk about this miraculous birth, what we're talking about are what we call gods, right? These higher rebirths. And also all of the beings in the first era, right, a long time ago in the first era, were also born miraculously.
ane tanda ngaso midi kiwa jimba la pardon mandrune mi jimba kiwa le zena mi jimba ka zuput son ze atin kiwa le chachi yores choso kun pache kunyo kyona pana ngaso kiwa le ra ngone ne kiwa le tata la mare mena tanga su ma shu ane pardon ro ane jimba chi kiwa le ra ma tanga su min ra chen ma shi pardon ro ane kiwa jimba le ra tinrabu maimpa pena ngandrabuchi taro mijimba zupulun zene tikjewa drabuchi len zupu jimu jawne
Zupu jimu jawne
tindi kiwa tindi pardolan rumogone tindi rishi yores
there's also apparently this type of birth rather than going from the bardo the mishingi supo the
pena nga shito ndaje ngi navshiti taro chero shira chero shiso ngi navshiti taro chero ko zupunan zene
okay
taro yahle tindishi
so there's also a possibility of say for example if I died Geshe could essentially transfer his consciousness into my body so there's some way that you can transfer your consciousness from one body to another without going through the bardo which would also be considered a type of birth
ane choso
Have you ever heard of this? Anybody heard of this?
My question in regards to that is what happens to the consciousness that's currently in that body?
In his example, he said, I died.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. Di nga di mi shinte di chongmena di kirangi di number shape te supola
zeto mares. Kongi bat shigo shinene rukin dong manya ba shima tabando.
Supo dong.
Zupola mata tindi choncha ka no ba shikchen bo mesa tindi ina.
So no, you have the person has to be dead. The consciousness has to have been gone. What have you heard? Where did you hear about it?
I know there is a practice maybe. Some people they practice that they can do that.
Yeah,
but I have a question about
okay. 공기 승부의 디 미카시 디 딘저디 디 냠는 잡어 체기여스. 이 냠는데 제 맞네.
다 대소 주바디 요 말에는 셔. 면 단다 티 카라라레zen 안소 포아 정지. 포아 정지 자 카라zen 페나 ngandabuchi lutez chambo cha gengo cha zupu don tesol shrape chome jen pe shra tomato te ninyale chene ngi ga nabshi te pasho cheronda lu chonsho ne tinde yena shima thayena ko nabshi ni nabshi te
yening kotula di nyamlan che di choki mari kongsu di chesong
tanda poa tonje ga danga za teso chesa rezene sheres na ngoma toma mabaluza mabaluza ga jakane ne tigi danga to kenele ane per tasu chambocha ane jemate nyotan da tinde mombo chayos tinde ite ane jemate poa tonje ga danga za teso chesa rezene shegayores.
So what I was saying is that I had heard that practice was severed, like that they stopped it because they decided it wasn't ethical, it was abusive, and so they cut that practice. So I asked Geshe about that, and he said it came over from India to like Marpa Lotsawa and Lharampa, and it was practiced back then, but then it was stopped at some point.
Ani tanda Marpa Lotsawa put chonra chondene namshi di kapto ko kapto zupu mig zupu to tindi cheremba chon zesamara chapuru chachig chapuru hakura puru na
purum di cha
chachig mir ta ko ko tron ta gongone zara ko tron ro ta ko nabshiti jembano zesara tane tsegres te ko kapten zesa mara mezupuna zesa mara ane chachi chapuronchi shima taba zubutu tson chola mandola tinish ta ko taro ko nabshiti taro ke zupuna ze mabalutsa pu
Mapalotsa ki pula di chapurunla shaks.
Mabalutsa pu mela si tarmando de tamando de. Nta te ta jonin de jing samna zone ko salabdane chon. Ane ko nabshiti kapto mik nabshi pombolon zisa mara sha purun sar.
Pukute namshe. The purune di supotela.
Supotela zeres. Mabalutsa ko puti ta jone le mijimba sauna zone ko tak pone za. Ta ko puwa donje ko nyawle mompo chia yeso ta khato nabshiti mik supona zesa mara. Ane cha puro chi ko supona ze. O tindi shia yores.
So there's also the story, for example, of Marpa Lotsawa, and I guess his son died, and he didn't have a body around to take his son's consciousness and put it in his body. So he put his his consciousness in a pigeon, and then carried the pigeon around looking for a body, and then finally found a suitable body, and then transferred the consciousness from the pigeon to the body.
Oh, that there's
lots of stories like this, from Tibetan history.
And that Nyota mombozo yores, mombola pen to yoretina, Nyota mombozo. Me pena chum miso chimbochi puye, ane cho tronsona, ane nabshite, taru poatonji, kogana, chorokonabshino, zupolanze, neko lekandra manda, pochondra mandalo, nyamle yapo macheko, chogo zuputo pecho chinja lotone. Attende jeni nyota chon. Ne tende mombo choni jima tanda nga so karlare. Tam mid tema so. Aralo sa. Aralo sa ga jima ne puaton jig dawnga to mocha chechine. Ralo sa tene ki jubat mahpa yo marezene. Tende sheso yores.
A lot of problems that came from this practice, it could be abused, right? Like, so somebody could take over someone else's body and then do lots of bad things with it and stuff like that. So, I think it was one of the main lineage. I think through Marpa Lotsawa eventually decided not to pass it on anymore and stopped the transmission of this practice. The poet dewa yoreve.
Poet tonji nyamle dawnga tombuti dawnga ti ju. Poatonjik dawnga zachi. Ta nga kan nyamle.
Mari ni poa ngato di chongtu di lama tetu di mission gi chetu di poa di
te mares poache. Di karrezena metron de lama chimbo poa jazan ko namshi te kiwa yapulya tende modo ti rongote yomare. Tanda poa namshi zate ngaro shenro te ngaro gzupute jimbalanzi. Kasi nga mashina ko tende shiso na ngani zupute pak chogan kenzi tsago. The poa tinin dry yomares.
I asked if there was a connection between poa, which is a very common practice in the Tibetan tradition, where when someone dies, great lamas are understood to be able to sort of propel the consciousness to a good rebirth or to a pure land. He said, no, it's a different practice. Because this is one person being able to take their own consciousness or someone else's consciousness and put it into another body. Whereas poa, you've died. No, another person, you die. Someone dies, and your lama is able to help you get a new rebirth, like to send you to a pure land or to send you to a better rebirth. That's poa. But not to like another body. They can't send you. It's not sending you to like another body. Like right nearby, right? You still have to be born.
Poa zati ngaso kararezana mijimba chitron neti mijimba zupula ziayo mare. Ishisona konda buji shizona.
Pardo jogi yereve.
Ni lama chimbo nyawla yapuyona poa tani ko pardula nikala ne kiwa yapula to tendil pache. Tanda poa tronji zati ngaro nyole chene ni naushit ngaro ka naushit me jemba no panze yo chayo o tende chires chita jemba ke roche chita susu ke cha
you know the marpa lotsa kongi puku ki chetu kongi puku number shepa
mobalucha ke steg mara mobalucha puku khoro nyole chimbu
puku khorang nyaman chimbu
puku khoro tagang zade tronde de khoro ka naushit khoro ke me jemba no zera mato mobalucha wa ki roche yo mara.
So when I said the story about Marpa Lotsawa and his son, I misunderstood something. Marpa Lotsawa's son, because he was Marpa Lotsawa's son, was a great practitioner. And so when he died, he was able to transfer his consciousness to the pigeon. And then I guess then the pigeon, then he found a body and came out and went into the body. It wasn't Marpa Lotsawa transferring this other person's his son's consciousness. But anyway, yeah, so the distinction there, right, is in Poa, this practice, like you die, you go to the bardo, and then the Lama is understood to be able to help you get a fortunate rebirth, more quickly or more effectively. But you're dying and going to the bardo versus a person able to transfer their own consciousness to a body, which is a different practice, that practice lineage was severed.
Can you say that again?
Sure. Poa, you die, and you go to the bardo, like a normal death process. But a great Lama or a great practitioner is able to do this practice that will help you get a good rebirth more quickly, propel you to a good rebirth. Versus this other thing that I forgot the name of it in English. But basically it's this idea that I could transfer my consciousness, or anyone through a lot of practice, right? I don't think it was easy. You could transfer your consciousness to a dead body, recently dead body.
Why do they want to do that? To continue their
Continue. Yeah, maybe it's a nice body.
Through the rebirth, then you forgot, right?
Well, no, you don't. In this thing that he's talking about, you don't forget anything. You just go straight to the other body.
Right. So I mean, so the reason you practice that is for you can continue without forgetting.
I mean, I don't know. Kongi di karichini di nyamlinche di potin di karichini kongso di chepare.
Nepa chare.
No. Karichini chepare.
Poa tonji di cheate pena ngandra buchi nyawlen thombo yo. Tende yete nga lutez chembo cha. Zubula natsa mombo yo. Ane tangan zente jiado chonta kasa kalan romato tende chaote. Ane nga mijimba tonsa luchonsho tonsona. Ane kog zupunan ze. Ane montone nga manoje. Nga zuputu mebazo. Ne ko zubona ze no ko luchojo zubu debo chada. E amandro to ato yo. Zente to tachik to mombo chato or teacher.
Yeah, so it's what you're saying basically, right? Imagine you're a great practitioner, but you're getting old, your body's getting very sick or something, and you can find the body of a young person, right? You can just sort of continue into that person's body.
Teachi tat nyale chade chenkate so otendires. Point. Nyale chade machena inga nyamle chade zana pana chade demba yabu chenkate so ane choncho go zuponan zene montene leka yabu chen. Yo ti pare lane ti poatenje dangwa nyawle ti ne pana mejen la sauna zo choronda du choncho ton ko zuponan zene yo leka de jandra le atende o mombo choyores.
Yeah, so this is something that really qualified practitioners, really great practitioners could do, but there was a lot of abuses, right? Like it was a lot of times it was abused where somebody could take over another person's body and then do something bad with it. So yeah.
Ne tananga so pela phua tonje ke danga jima mepa zo ato daji chimala motebi jinsete ane mombo chi ke tan tinyawle chede yabu mache tindi chewote ne tati danga te montene nina pen tobale no chiba mombo tintone ne mepa chere tindi chege yores.
So the sort of quintessential instructions, right? So these oral instructions, this lineage of oral instructions that you needed to actually be able to do this practice, right? They stopped passing these instructions on because they looked at it and decided that basically that the harm from this practice outweighed the benefits, that it was being abused more than it was really being beneficial, and so they stopped this. All of these practices, right? To do these, you have to have these lineage of personal instructions. They're called menga. It's like quintessential instructions to actually do something like this. And so they essentially stopped passing on these instructions.
Yeah,
if anyone, Taruna or Riddhi, if you have questions or anyone online, no, it's fine. I just want to include them.
A question about that earlier. Geshe explained, how bottle beings leave the bottle state. So before they leave the bottle state, they saw their future parents having sex, right? Is that they really see that, or that's delusion?
Okay, so 공기 di 바르기 밑에 공기 마음바기 밤에 격박 주기열에 동기열에 공성문에 동기열에 양나디 공기 밀람낭신 동기열에
ngunen tongo yores.
So they really see
Milan no je mara kor ngusun ton ane tilan zendo che ane tilan ze
so 공성 di 바도
milatam perdula milatap yo mara.
얘는 di 바도 tetso di 공소 di 바도 di 축박 약바테 통나 tetu di 바도 di ngacho di 남균기 미시기 낭라디 공수기 밤에 축박 약이요레스
밤에 축박 ngunecho ti chobati perdukas ton ton ane taron tone tilan rondo tila chapa chen tar tilan rondo che
so they're really
rondo chen
so they're really seeing it. The parents are actually having sex at that time, and the Bardo beings are seeing it and are attracted to them. So it's not just a vision. It's like a.
Then there will arise another question, because for now there are many IVF babies, like in vitro fertilization.
How do I say that?
They cannot see. They don't see that.
Yeah, no, it's true, but I have to.
How do you explain that?
I have to figure out how to translate
IVF. Okay, I can ask.
If you want to ask it in
Chinese.
Chinese.
To explain.
I mean, I can try to explain it. The tensang the tsinik the chu rikpa ki gyune the pame tetso the kare the kyukpa chegi yomare kongso the tsinik lekungi nanga kongso the pame pame chegi yores digapso the kare
ta kautiti ngemal ngaso jonte sono ma shete kautiti tserik kechato tenditi yomare ra kozo sheal toal karchoresan pamad so nyensa ja tubaje tendichin tone shega yores ena tison rawti jongno sakhayo mares tseripakati pamak khoati ngorlole ne tupatendi o tendi rete ena ripak pane ngaso tan gombat so dole mombu cheres ripak patendi kobagi ngorte pamak ngorte la ke pugute pak khoat mak ngor lula lugra luti taro koso namshiti ke taro tinto tele korchia lak lit tata chonyona taro ko tinto telen zigres ne tangaso dolen rachi tsebanda mombu chegres hakoso pena ngoma rajena jonte sona karason yorezena pamanyen seja tisha ina tseriba ke chate ngema yo mare ina ya tingaso ripa salu tone junse mombo la salu tone kararezena pena pag khoati mak ngorla lu ngela lu tene pagi bucha ke chinda chaso choyona ane michia lenke china mig namshiti kasa kalndru de yora ru de yososa ko chia de chona tata tela namshiti jik tugrezene tangaso drolenda majano tende shege yores
So, of course, at the time, right, these great scholars were writing and talking. Of course, they didn't talk about these possibilities because it didn't exist back then, right? So they spoke about what they were, what was pertinent to them. So there's nothing in the texts about these kinds of things. But, of course, people have been thinking about this and discussing this. What does this kind of thing mean? And so like one of the answers that the sort of scholars have given, there's lots of discussion, right, about this is, well, the idea is basically that that person is in the bardo really, really desiring, remember, they want to be born. They have this deep hunger to find a birth, right? And so then if they have the karma to be born to those parents in that womb, right, the egg and sperm, when they're joined or implanted into the womb, then they'll be attracted to that birthplace regardless, to that womb regardless, because that's where their karma, their birth is going to lead them to that place. So it's not going to be exactly this way with the attraction to the mother and father, but they'll still have the karma and that drive to be born there. But this is through discussion and thinking about it, right? Because there's no scripture about these kinds of things. Yeah, it's not clear in the scriptures. This is not in the scriptures. Yeah, so it's sort of the same thing again, right? This idea that, right, it's not in the scriptures at all, so we have to really just think about it and sort of conjecture or sort of try to figure out what this would be like. And of course, yeah, basically that, right? We have the conditions, right? So that person in the bardo will have has the conditions to be born as a person, right? And so then then they'll have the karma or the conditions to be drawn to that sperm and the egg when it's implanted in the mother's womb, and they'll go there regardless. But we don't really know, right?
Ngamala Tseripag Paguati Magun Morgan Lutindi did low your marete, yo Carlo Yorezena, Pagantuba Jotella, Pamanyopuchesela, now she didn't Zigamares. Pamani Nyopuches and a Pamani Tupa Yanda Deajora. The Somala, now she didn't Zito Yomares. Carres and now she's at the Chechukari Sheyorezena, and ma dancento dembas. Ma dancento dembalon Carres and Angaso Pamatisolan, dances and Atanagaso, Davari Kimatisol, ma top that. The Tarota. Devi Nika, Pugucha Nika Tata, Patila, and Coatil, Jumeba, and the Tapage Co Packet Coat Market Tomer Pazara, the Yantan Nika Jumesa, Tata, now she Jugora Mato, Dance to Mad Dempa, then the Junjayana, now she the Jugmares and Sabushi.
So if we think about, like, the texts don't talk about this circumstance, but they do talk about things like, right, like it's not true that every time, say, someone has sex, two people have sex, that they can that there's an opportunity for a consciousness to be implanted, right? So there was, in the classical text, they talk about the woman being on the right part of the cycle, right, of their monthly cycle, otherwise they can't conceive. So if they have sex, even if that happens, if the woman is not in the right part of the cycle, she can't, there's no opportunity. Also, the man's sperm or seed has to have the potency, right? And so if that's lacking, right, so there's other places where these conditions have to come together for the consciousness to be able to have this opportunity to enter as well.
Tandangazo Pucha Kiale, Puchaton Chiora, Puchukiel. Titanda Nazu Notion on the Shandreshe Jato, Seripak and Deshe Jajora, Titata Rantene, Nota Mesand, Tomoka Kilander, the Chamobiores.
The Chachanya, the
Tumba, Seripak Puchana Kandi Sares and Deshe Jaj, the Notion on Nazu Puchana, the Sarakia, or this Seripak Karazan, Tela Namshi Shiba, Shiamara. That notion on it, now she desires and dresses Yamato. Yes, Chiba, Chicho, the Mobiores.
So if we look at how these ancient Buddhist texts and the Buddhist texts describe the sort of gestation process and the growth process of the embryo and being born, and we look at the modern scientific explanations, they're actually quite compatible, right? There's a lot of very similarity in the way that this process is described, and they're very, very compatible. The main difference is that the Buddhist texts talk about the consciousness and how the consciousness enters into this process, whereas the scientific processes just sort of ignore that.
Any
question?
I have lots of questions, but I have to decide which ones to ask.
Sure. Yeah.
This is one is it possible to not be reborn?
the gewa milin sigireve. Younger gewa lin me sigireve.
기아치마 메시그레라래. 알레 다 나촌데 노치지자체 바찬트부 몸부타서 바찬데 나나 간다버지나 기앙아체 켈레 기앙아시 요레선에 지시전 틴디스 살루톤데요라.
You know, the nangchugi samo tangne, the gewa limba, the gachaga gewa lingoreve.
The gachaga gewa lingores. Pana ngandrauji shisona yonjo gewa len. Ta karrazana, and so majipete. Sanji compomata, timata pete. Nangasu gewa lingores and no shigores.
From the Buddhist perspective, no. I mean, we've been reborn since beginningless time, and so until you become a Buddha, you're going to be continually to be reborn. From the Tibetan Buddhist perspective.
Okay. But then, so the end of the cycle is becoming a Buddha?
From the Mahayana Buddhist perspective, yes. Okay. It will be taught different in like Pali and Theravada traditions, but yes.
And a goal of the practice is to avoid rebirth by becoming a Buddha?
The goal of the practice is to become a Buddha to help all sentient beings, but I'll ask Geshe. The kongichiwa the ngansu the nyamnan chegi mikyu, the younger gewa lingi mare, the sangegi skopang topne, younger gewa lingi mare, ngansu the nangchugi mikyu direve.
Ngansu nonshugu meyazan tasu salutons gewa te yonjo katse gewa te mombolena. Tisasu dungoto kanga toma membatin kale shibuyo ti ton no chinone tani tati kanga chimbato ane tatili trovi to chia lemogu vi thalaji yorezene ta thalat karezene nyawle che chunyole chene sanji ji komputa tamoyo su tires
the mikyu the mi simjin samji gi chedu
samje tamshe chete zena ta karezena nga sanji ji komputa zona ane suzuki gewa che ane jeno pen totu ta gewa che
so yes and no, right? So it is the goal to stop rebirth and samsara, right? So we look at samsara from the Buddhist perspective and see all of the suffering and faults of continually being born under the control of karma and afflictions, right? And so we see how much we're going to suffer and have suffered, right? And we want to stop that cycle. And then also in the Mahayana Buddhist perspective, right, it's not just for oneself, but for all sentient beings who are in this situation, right? So you want to achieve this state of a Buddhahood, right, to stop the suffering for yourself and for all sentient beings. And chief among that suffering is this uncontrolled rebirth in samsara. So yes, with some nuance. Okay. Yeah. But you don't stop existing, and like in the Theravada tradition, some these like your consciousness is snuffed like a candle. They talk about that. In this tradition, that's not true. You continue existing as a Buddha.
Yeah, yo ngaso cha jewa chama lemo jewa che ane sonjia muyoti cheton zogo yores. Yina yo akoso. Pena ngaso jewa che to jewa chama yonjon mogo sanji ji kompo tawba za jora te meya su zone ane te meya du zone ne tandanga su chunya la zena mando jena roche za te su te noshino ni te shega yoras yena yo kashi saje de ne sibal yonjo jewa lene susu leto nyomo ki jewa le magona niji to molo yonjo kawala jewa len ane jendo cheba jendo peto che yo tenri jewa len yoras.
So it's also true, right? So our goal ultimately is to stop rebirth in samsara, but there are great beings and practitioners, right, who continually take rebirth in samsara willingly out of this incredible compassion. So they're continually coming back to samsara just to be able to help people. So ultimately the goal is to get everyone out of samsara and to stop this cycle of uncontrolled rebirth. But there are also people who, through great compassion, will continually choose to be reborn in samsara to help.
Them bodhisattva.
The Changchu Simba de Lapkyureve.
Changchu Saba Saji, Changchu Saba Papa Tautsane Mato Saji Kiale to Mares. Niji Saji the Saba, Niji to Malon. Consan Jogo Cars, Nakarina, Montana Sanchella Petongation, Kiva Legers, or Tati Molok Token in the Kiale.
So Arya bodhisattvas, right? So bodhisattvas that have reached the level of the path of seeing. So the path of seeing is this, in the 5 paths explanation, it's the path where a path is a mind. Sorry, there's a lot of jargon. Beings that have directly realized the true nature of reality and have gotten rid of all of their sort of the first level of like acquired afflictions, they no longer take rebirth through the control of karma and afflictions, right? So they take rebirth through the power of their compassion and love and do it willingly. So there's a point at which in the 5 paths, when you have this incredibly deep realization of the nature of reality, that you're no longer controlled by your karma and afflictions and propelled to rebirth, but you choose rebirth because of your compassion. But until you reach the level of the path of seeing, you don't have that ability. So like His Holiness, right, who's always constantly looking for sentient beings, but if he is really still on the path of preparation, this is still an aspiration for him. He's not, what his actual level is, who knows, but but what he has said, if we take what he has said at face value, right?
So then I heard another saying, like Bodhisattva is the beings already got enlightened, but they postpone, you know.
Yeah, not in this tradition.
Not
in this,
okay.
yeah. The Mikashe Tamsam the Changchut Simba Tetsu the Sangha Sangegi Gopang Topsare. Yine the Sangegi Gopang te Topa te Kongso the Parshakieres, the Mishin Gichetu, the Sangegi Gopang the Kara the Topkimare.
Te candidate lo gorezana tapena kan sanjiji computer tawi nipachi mejing cheta tende mombochi sanjiji computer chenga thamache za tende ta koman tomanyo kande na
the mission didn't love here. So the thing is, right, you achieve the whole reason in this tradition for achieving the state of a Buddhahood is because that is the state at which you can actually benefit sentient beings, right? So there's no reason to put it off in the way this tradition understands Buddhahood, right? Your whole point is, how can I help sentient beings by becoming a Buddha?
Yeah. Buddha.
So that doesn't, right?
Okay. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I have one question. So except the ghost, except hungry ghost, are there other kind of ghost?
Well, the word's not ghost, right? That's not a good tradition. It's not a good translation. So it's a hell being. So there's other kinds of demons, or like there's hell beings, hungry ghosts, animals that are bad migrations, but the word's not really ghost. Yitak, the yitak drabu gi simjin yureve.
yitan drabu ge
The tundre drabu yure the karina. Du the nangshin gi yitak drabu yureve.
then cheto yitating aso tana nyawat disha chura nyawapani yita tandru ngendola sanchigara ina
Yitak te to the badu ki mi drabu yureve.
pordo ya pordo mindrabu mare
Tun the de tang
mare
drabu yureve.
ndinda bo mare karaza gora tam me susu yora aso ndit kare rezena dondinda bo kare rezena tundru rezera
Tundra.
nyawa yita ngendola samato yo mara nyawa yita tundru sa yora rezera dondi ge rezene pa tundru ge rezene ba rezene tindis ge rezene te nyawa de lokare yita ti koro lokare tundru ge rezene ba ge rezene dondi de
Yeah, not really. I was trying to see if there was anything else like hungry ghosts, but hungry ghosts are a type of rebirth, right? Like hell beings and hungry ghosts, and so they're not really like, it's not like they're not like the Bardo beings, and they're not like the sort of, we have these different types of demons that we talk about, right? They're not the same as those. So the word ghost is not in the Tibetan. It's just the way we translate it because it's descriptive, evocative, but it's not a ghost. Like the word.
Is that used as like hell beings? You know, so it's category in hell beings.
No. Hell beings, hungry ghosts, and animals are the 3 bad migrations.
Right.
So they're separate.
Yeah.
ne yita tela ne yita kantro azene
Katorwa.
yita kantro azene yita cheta yita ris ni ba yimba yita ngone ma yimba yita li tez dingma chwa penanga so kar lama ta lama tik me temazo lama ji ke kar so rezen te kun ta nga so mbutoma yo mbutoma oteso yeta khanthara wazene
Katora ti
tindi rezen Geshe jawi
Katora ti kapsa ti part jogi ri such
yeta khanthara wala na pana yeta ngone mai yeta drapo yeta no je dinga chembo mai ina tundrola ta ti dinga chembo o tindi ji.
So there's also these things called sort of maybe dispersed hungry ghost. I don't know. They're not. It's not quite the same thing as a hungry ghost. And there was a great Lama that was talking about some of these little insects maybe being like that. But it's sort of a type of hungry ghost, or similar to a hungry ghost, but not a true hungry ghost.
Some people say they can see
Hungry ghosts.
beings. So then those beings. So what should we consider them as? Like they are not in the hell beings. They are not in the hungry ghost.
Which beings?
Like the ghost. That's the term. Right?
Yeah, I have to figure out how to say ghost.
Yeta khanthara zat tindi ji jand ai.
Yeta khanthara. Serwana de nangbe shunglukle shepe yi daki rikshikte ti ko shamse tarnu.
Yeta khanthara wazena ta butoma teso yeta Keto yeta ngone tsiga mare.
So the ngato the inchige na gi tsik yore ghost sergere. Di maka chiki bi supo me pa ki mi draba yore. Ngato di samsam di simola di ghost tongi yore.
Ale.
Di china di dre. Jumbo.
Jumbo o teso pa min drapo zupu mantoa. Yeta la zupu soma yore.
So the
zupu tsede.
Yeah, so hungry ghosts have a body. They have a physical body. They're not like a ghost, that's sort of like amorphous or anything, right? The hungry ghosts have an actual body.
Yita zat ngaso yita khantha zat bitroma so seache. Yo yita ngoni tinje ngaso thomuto ayo noaki nyone zupu yoa kanjila ne dingati noa ngaso noa jora. Samgit noa zajora. O tindi ginyonge. Tindi indasi jagar. Noa zen.
No, okay, no.
Pana noa ze yita zat kandi pana ngaso ngautrachi nyukati. Nyutupu kote ngaso sheandra woto mejemba ko doandra dingo nyoandra jora. O tindrapo noa ki yosake yita kashiki tindi indasi jagar.
No,
Sanata nanga nang wa.
No. Okay. There's things that sort of seem like, I'm not totally getting this, but there's things that sort of seem like hungry ghosts or have appearances of hungry ghosts, like that look like we could say are hungry ghosts, but are not really hungry ghosts.
Yo yita ka ne terezane sacha tindi rezane kashiki yo mareze kar semgi noa.
Simgi nangwa de.
Semgi noa za tinola yita ka dingo ti nyong rezane chishe. Yo yita zane ne ta ba ngaso zupu tracha soma tindi kanga yosa tindi resi yo rezane ta yita telan dramanda ji yo is
there's also beings who have the suffering of hungry ghosts, right? They have for them the suffering of hungry ghosts arises, but they're not actually hungry. They don't have the bodies of hungry ghosts.
Tanga yitan direzene ngal tata dire jemat mareze tende sheames. Tamombuchi kunyora. Ngaro kuati so mashede ma.
So I'm repeating what I've said. Of course, I haven't seen that this is a hungry ghost and this isn't a hungry ghost. I'm sort of just speaking things that I've heard said about them.
Because we discuss about when people die, and then right at the moment you pass away, then you are entered the bottle state, right? And then in these 49 days, the bottle beings were reborn.
Yeah, they could be reborn in a minute, right? But at most 49 days. Yeah.
In these 49 days,
yeah.
Right? But then we also heard people. They said some people they have the ability to see, like something if we cannot see.
Sure.
Usually we call them ghosts. And then so, what is the state of this ghost? Like,
Yeah. So mikashe ki ngumba shepa jabo yana. The J tangjawe ki mi tongi yore. Mishin tongi yomare. Ini mikashe ti mikse ki nupa ki gyune kungso the ghost the J double tongi yore. Teto karere.
Tati candid jena, tenga tata sessions, candid tonga you are.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what are these things? Who knows? I mean, I don't know what this would be.
Then do you believe there is ghost?
Yeah, the problem is the word ghost, right? I have to pick a word in Tibetan. And so what is a ghost to you?
In Chinese it's gui.
Okay, try that.
Gui,
So puke so you can de kongi
Koge Jami Jana Jong no Karazana. Yitati Njigri. Yitati Njirezana Musila.
You know, the day is like a demon. Ghost in English doesn't have that same connotation. I don't know. De karere. De karere.
Njidi yo kar konto jagrezana. Tundru. Nyawa Yita Tundru Sayora. Tundru Kosto Pares. Tundru Telayo Ring Dramanda Mombuyo.
You know the J karere. The kind of the kungso the Jodan karere. Kungso karichegere the kare. So they're considered to be part of the animal birth.
Yeah, Tundru Kotoche. Ra. Yo, Dizat Kanticherezana. Tata Shiara.
Noba chicken, cookie.
Noba Chenke, Niboto Noba Chenke Yomara.
Okay, so they're not necessarily evil, so maybe the demon's not the right word.
Dezatela, Nipa, Hachu Niba Choncho, Yanta Tendi, Yon Dezati, Yon Niba Chembo.
Suk tang dembeki supo yureve.
Dedela, Tandangaso Dedela Zigni Yorezer, Zigni, Yenate Mitsoma Tomare.
So this sounds like a ghost, right? So they have an image, but they don't necessarily have a physical body. They're very weak and they don't have a lot of power. It sounds a lot like a ghost, but I don't think we know like what I'm trying to get more about what they are.
Penangaso you're like Jidaza ta Chimombuji Tigger. Kashi Mombuji Tondore. Tamare. Inangaso Jidaza and Kola Yapu Chena, ya Roche, Yapu Machana, Romache, Tindi, Koniba Chimbo, you Niba Choncho, Koro Ganga Tenga, Tindi, Tandidala Niba Chimbo, Chonchos and
So there's lots of different, like there are some really powerful deities, what we call them ghosts or spirits. Maybe spirits is a better word in English, but right, the Lord of Death is one of these, right? He's incredibly powerful, but then most of them are not very powerful. Very weak. And they're considered part of an animal rebirth. So maybe the tundro, translating as animal, is maybe slightly misleading.
Tanda ngaso baby chinsona ndajena tanda jobu shide tojel tata penyo ata tata nderezeni ya to ko ndike konto yore yana kaji ngama yoti ya sol Kola Rewanda che, Trechon Tonte che, Ndrib anta Tundru Concert ni Bares, yo Zolora, yo Kashikiti Yabu Mares, and Dio no Chinga, Kashin Dio no Chinga Mares, and the Baby Chinsona, Tatinota Sabundares.
There was this thing in the Tibetan culture tradition, the Shukten Sergiri?
Togel.
Togel. There was this practice that was some people considered that it was very common. They considered it a protector deity, and then other people considered it actually more of like a ghost or some other being that you shouldn't be making offerings to and asking for protection. And there was a lot of argument about this. And I think His Holiness actually stopped the practice at some point.
Togel. Tate Jamiki Lacha Yashandraji. Shide Yapure, Shide. Tonke Chijamimo Artisan Mombodo, Otisolane, Peshate, Ngote, Pepala Katecha, Pepala Nota Zuching, Chitoshi Depat, Pepa Nonkone, Kakacha, Yenayo, any tipper Yamiki, any Chijong Shide, Tenga Mitizotone, Mimombo Kozu Sobatsu, Janani Pesha Shishimbuton, and Yarambachi to Popala Katonchi, Ramandal. That is Sonyo.
Sorry, I didn't get all of that. But there was some sort of situation with the Chinese and the Tibetans and them sort of arguing about, and what the status of this deity was.
I know the CCP, they are trying to use them. His son and his friend, and they are trying to use them.
That's what he said, yeah.
Against.
Because it was very popular in China.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
the guy that's holding the that would be the Lord of Death, right? And he's also considered one of these days.
Tatin Ramanda Spina Gunena Nditikar Contotsegresina Tando. Ane Tanda, Ane Ita, Nyawa. Mombachic Tando Lotte Karar Koyo Resena. Also Pacho Sanchendra, the Lombachendra, the Tazundo. Then Mombachic Tikor, Tichumba Mares. Tandangaso Jidan Ravaton, Jidahakula. Jida Denata Jobu. Jobu Dichatia Lancashire. As Pepaga Jidala. Jidalana.
No chicken.
Tak Kole Yabuchena, Ropache, Yabumachana, Nochi.
So when we talk about tundra, which we translate as an animal rebirth, of course, that the vast majority of what we talk about in that situation as being born is what we think of as an animal, like a cow or a pig or something. But really, that type of rebirth also encompasses some of these other types of beings that we're talking about. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, for example, like local spirits, like these sort of land spirits or water spirits that the Tibetan tradition talks about, there being mountain spirits. These would also be considered like animals in the sense of their animal rebirth. So there's lots of these that we can't actually see that are out there. Okay, well that's that. Thank you online for coming. Did you have any more questions? One more question?
Huh?